Okay. Good morning. Whoa. Good morning. Good morning. That's off to a rough start. But good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome to our meeting tonight. We'll call the meeting to order at this time. And do we have a closed session report?
Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members, we have nothing to report out of closed session.
Okay. Would you lead us in the pledge tonight, Mr. City Attorney?
Place your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Luevanos? Here. Councilmember Kavanaugh?
Here.
Councilmember Judge?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Litster?
Here.
And Mayor Mashburn?
Here. Okay, it's time for agenda review. Are there any items for agenda review? That's usually you.
Nothing from me, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
I move that all resolutions and ordinances presented tonight be read in title only and all further reading be waived. Second?
Okay, motion and second. Call for the vote.
We did that on purpose. The motion passes unanimously.
Okay, the declaration of conflict. If any member of the city council may have a conflict of interest or any reason why that member must abstain from consideration of any matter on this agenda, he or she should so declare at this time. Anybody? Going once, going twice? Okay, moving forward.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, the first item on the agenda is item 1D1, presentation of a 15-year service award to Wanda Moyer, Environmental Compliance Program Coordinator, Department of Public Works. And Ron Fuchiwaki is here to present this item.
Good evening, Mayor Mashburn and council members. It's a pleasure this evening to recognize Wanda Moyer for her 15 years of service, and if Wanda could come up and join us. And while she's coming up, I'd like to introduce Wanda's husband, Steve, and her parents, Judy and Richard, sitting in the back of the room there. Wanda, as Lucy said, is one of the department's environmental compliance program coordinators and is responsible for the city's water conservation program, which, as you can imagine at this time, is quite busy and quite critical. Wanda has made and continues to make many significant contributions and accomplishments to and for the city. A few of the major highlights of Wanda's 15-year career include, in 2008, she led the effort to eliminate an outdated and redundant hazardous material tenancy certificate program by coordinating a successful effort to repeal the program ordinance, forms, and business fees, saving time and money for our local businesses. Wanda also led the effort to develop the current ordinances for the City and Waterworks District Number 8 Water Conservation Program in 2009. She created and implemented many new water conservation programs with no additional budget or staff, which she constantly reminds me, by integrating them into existing operations and building public and private partnerships. She coordinated environmental regulatory compliance and outreach efforts during 3 statewide drought emergencies. She also obtained over $500,000 in grant funding for water use efficiency improvements throughout city facilities, such as new water bottle filling stations, centralized computer smart irrigation controllers and weather stations, high-efficiency sprinkler nozzle and drip irrigation systems, and turf removal transformation projects, such as the Welcome Corner, which is it's an extraordinary change from what it used to be with all the turf. Wanda and her family are proud to have lived in Simi Valley since 1967, even before the city was incorporated. She and her husband Steve have been married for over 30 years and have 2 adult children. Their daughter Katie is a UPenn Ivy League educated dentist, and their son Scott is a UCLA graduate in math and computer science, working as a cloud software engineer at Oracle. Wanda asked us to thank her parents, Judy and Richard, and her husband Steve, for providing her their unconditional love and support during her tenure at the city. I would also like to thank Wanda for her contribution, service, and leadership within the organization for over 15 years. The department is proud to have Wanda as one of its Public Works family members and joins the City Council in thanking and congratulating her for her 15 years of city service.
Before you go anywhere, Wanda, I have a question of staff, or maybe yourself, but I noticed we have these smaller water bottles. Did you have anything to do with this?
No, we used to give away the plastic refillable ones, and it looks like I need to do that again. Stations we have right outside.
But anyway, we're going to come down and give you a certificate. You might want to invite your family down, get pictures.
The plastic bottles actually are the 50% reduction that we're supposed to meet.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 1D2, presentation of a proclamation declaring September 16, 2022 as National Step Family Day, and Samantha Argerbright is here to present this item.
Good evening, Mayor Mashburn and members of the City Council. Whereas National Step Family Day is recognized by our commitment to support the step families of our community in their mission to raise their children, create strong family structures to support the individual members of the family, and instill in them a sense of responsibility to all extended family members. And whereas approximately half of all Americans are currently involved in some form of step-family relationship, and it is the vision of the Step Family Foundation that all step families be accepted, supported, and successful. And whereas California has been blessed by thousands of loving step-parents and step-children who are daily reminders of the joy, trials, and triumphs of the step-family experience and of the boundless love contained in the bond between all types of parents and children. And whereas 2022 marks the 25th anniversary of National Step Family Day, a day to celebrate the many invaluable contributions step families have made to enriching the lives and life experience of the children and parents of America and to strengthening the fabric of American families and society. Now therefore, September 16, 2022 is hereby proclaimed Step Family Day in the city of Simi Valley, presented this 12th day of September 2022.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, the next item on the agenda is 1D3, presentation of a proclamation declaring the month of September 2022 as Suicide Prevention Month, and Kristen Tignack is here to present this item.
Good evening, Mayor Mashburn and City Council. Whoops. The month of September 2022 is recognized as Suicide Prevention Month. To accept the proclamation, I would like to invite the following Youth Council members forward to the podium. Abhishek Jagannathan, Jasleen Kangura, Christopher Krikorian, Ella McCrossan, Advaith Nair, and Rika Tignack. The proclamation reads, whereas 4.8 million people in the United States have lost a loved one to suicide, and in many cases, suicide can be prevented. And whereas, as a community, we must strive to build safe and supportive environments for those facing mental health issues, because when individuals are at risk of suicide, they may be ashamed and not seek life-saving help. And whereas the Simi Valley community is working to increase the awareness of suicide prevention resources, such as the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, and reduce the stigma surrounding mental health issues by such programs as the 2022 Youth Council's Suicide Prevention Campaign that includes a rock painting night on Friday, September 23rd at the Simi Valley Library from 6 to 7:30 p.m., designed to share available resources and engage the community in spreading messages of hope and help to those in need. And whereas the Youth Council and the Simi Valley Unified School District annually partner to print crisis resource numbers on the back of all middle and high school identification cards for easy access to resources. And whereas the goal for Suicide Prevention Month is to embrace the reality of mental illness, educate the community about risk factors and signs of suicidal behavior, and provide awareness and preventive measures to help those at risk. And whereas positive mental health is an essential component of a healthy community. Now, therefore, the month of September 2022 is hereby proclaimed Suicide Prevention Month in the city of Simi Valley to reduce the incidence of suicide, presented this 12th day of September 2022.
The mic, there it is. Everybody understands that it's the student council, these group of young adults, that has taken the lead in Simi Valley on doing mental health prevention and helping us with the suicide prevention. So this isn't just something that's small and that some school does once in a while. This is something that Simi Valley needs very badly. And these folks are bringing that kind of help to us, and so we have to show that appreciation. We certainly do appreciate everything you're doing. Okay? Thank you. Now, I don't know who to give this to, but it's the proclamation, or resolution, excuse me. Yeah.
May I add something? We'd like to invite all of you to our Suicide Prevention Rock Painting Night. That's next Friday, September 23rd from 6 to 7:30 p.m. It's right outside the library. We have a great time with it every year, and we'd love to have you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, the next item on the agenda is item 1D4, presentation of a proclamation declaring September 15, 2022 to October 15, 2022 as Hispanic Heritage Month, and Heidi DiNardo is here to present this item.
Good evening, Mayor Mashburn and members of the City Council. Tonight, I have the honor of reading the Hispanic Heritage Month Proclamation, which reads as follows. Whereas the Hispanic people have had profound and positive influence on Simi Valley through their strong commitment to family, faith, and community. And whereas honoring Hispanic heritage nationally began in 1968, when President Lyndon Johnson proclaimed Hispanic Heritage Week, and 20 years later, President Ronald Reagan expanded the honor to encompass a month of days in 1988. And whereas during Hispanic Heritage Month, we celebrate the cultural and traditions of Simi Valley residents who trace their roots to Spain, Mexico, Central America, and the Caribbean. And whereas the Hispanic community has influenced Simi Valley by enhancing and shaping the whole community with traditions and culture that reflect multi-ethnic and multicultural customs and celebrations that are interwoven into the fabric of our city. And whereas Hispanic Heritage Month is a call to action to reaffirm our respect, appreciation, and support for the Hispanic community and to ensure that they, like all persons, are afforded the same rights, privileges, and advantages to pursue their dreams. Now, therefore, September 15th through October 15th is hereby proclaimed Hispanic Heritage Month in the city of Simi Valley. To celebrate the generations of Hispanics who have enriched our community, we recognize their contributions and we reaffirm our commitment to a strong and inclusive community that recognizes and celebrates all cultures and people and the values of dignity and respect. Thank you.
The Hispanic community, I've lived in this valley my entire life, and we've always had a very active and a Hispanic community that helps make this city grow. And it's been nothing but a true blessing to add to the diversity of the city and add to the actual function of the city also. So it's something that I think we all tend to recognize today and appreciate. And we look around, and it's no longer odd to see a Hispanic person in a role of complete leadership within our city. So thank you to each of them.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, the next item on the agenda is item 1D5, presentation of an honorary resolution for John Flores, retired Simi Valley paramedic, first paramedic in the city of Simi Valley, LAPD paramedic, and Chief Livingstone is here to present this item.
We have John come forward. Whereas John Flores started his career as an ambulance cadet in 1975 with Ron Brady Ambulance and became an emergency medical technician right out of high school, serving as one of the first paramedics to work in the city of Simi Valley. And whereas John Flores was a member of the Simi Valley Adventist Hospital Paramedic Committee, where he represented the paramedics of the Ventura County Paramedic Services Subcommittee, a component of the Emergency Medical Care Committee, and whereas during his tenure he was an avid instructor of first aid, CPR, and basic first aid for Boy Scouts, earned his AHA Award of Merit from the Ventura County chapter, where he served as an AHA affiliate faculty member. John Flores was one of the first paramedics to be certified in advanced cardiac life support in 1977 in Ventura County, an EMT instructor for the Ventura County Point Mugu Air Base, and the chief paramedic for Pruner Health Services in Ventura County until 1988. And whereas John Flores then continued his career with the Los Angeles Fire Department as a firefighter paramedic for 33 years, during his time with LAFD, he developed emergency medical dispatch protocols and expanded their quality improvement sections, recognized and appointed the National Curriculum Chair of the International Academies of Emergency Dispatch, and trained dispatch instructors internationally, developing medical dispatch protocols. And whereas John Flores also served as a pre-hospital care consultant for the Department of Health Services, Emergency Medical Services Agency, and the development of training modules for all paramedics. He has been an active member of the Los Angeles City Emergency Management Team as the section coordinator for Planning and Intelligence Section for over 15 years, serving during a variety of catastrophic events. John retired in June of 2022 after 47 years of providing emergency services to both Ventura and Los Angeles counties. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Simi Valley that it hereby commends John Flores for his outstanding and valued service to all the citizens of Simi Valley, Ventura County, and Los Angeles counties, and on occasion of his retirement, extends him thanks, appreciation, and very best wishes. Presented this 12th day of September, 2022.
Boy, this is dangerous having you and I together. A little bit of story. John and I started I started the fire service. John was with the ambulance company when I started with the fire department. And I want to share with you so you could look back and see how things were. The first time I saw John, I thought, why are they letting that kid drive that ambulance? I'm sure he couldn't reach the pedals. And then I have to share one other thing. We were driving down, I forgot what street it is, Stowe or something. And there was John and his partner parked in front of Ron Brady's house mowing his lawn. I thought, how bad do I want to be an ambulance driver so I can mow this guy's lawn? But what we soon learned is this man started the true first responders medically in this city. He was the brains behind it. We would go on calls, fire department, the ambulance would show up, and with his extensive training as a paramedic and what have you, we instantly fell into a role of just do whatever he says because he knows what he's doing. And that went on for how many years? Yeah, about 13 years out here. And it was phenomenal. Now, there are some stories we probably couldn't tell.
Thank you very much.
And we won't tell. However, when we'd go to the hospital to take a patient, John would have one of us ride with him in case the patient was critical, and that way we had better care for the patient. And when we'd get to the emergency room, instantly the doctors are asking him what to do next. The nurses are asking John, where do we do, what's going on? John's giving this full report, and I have to say at that time, we're thinking, we got him in the ambulance and we drove him here and now they're yours. They were John's all the way through. And it was such a pleasure working with you and learning from you. I remember one day I asked him, what's he gonna do? And he says, I'm gonna become a doctor. And I go, well, I'm still waiting because I'll be going to him if he ever becomes a doctor. But well, you can start a new career, double dip. But at any rate, John Flores, first paramedic in Simi Valley. And obviously, we've had great paramedics all along, but he's the foundation. He's why we have such good paramedic service in Simi Valley. Now it's your turn to talk.
Okay, I've got some stories too, but I'm going to hold back, okay? I want to thank everyone for being my family most of all, because I'm not home 24 hours a day when I'm working. They have to survive without me. So thank you, my beautiful wife, my kids who stuck it out while I was gone at work for sometimes 2-3 days. But it's been great working with you. It's been a pleasure. All of those arguments we used to have and things like that. No, just kidding. But really enjoyed it. Thank you very much to the city, all the council members, thank you very much. And I can retire now. Maybe, we'll see. Thank you very much.
He may be retired, but if anybody has an ailment, do it tonight in front of him because we got the guy that can fix us.
Mr. Mayor, we have a,
Oh, the most important part. Yeah, this is for you, John. put it on the hood of your car and drive around town very proudly. Let people know who you are. Huh? Yeah, yeah. Could the family come up and for a photograph? That's okay. You said you didn't spend a lot of time at home.
It's quality time, though.
Okay, and how about Chief? Okay. We're gonna have the chief.
So I just want to thank you and your entire family for everything that you've done to keep our community safe and, helping develop, the protocols here. When I started, we had Pruner Ambulance, and it really come a long way. And I think to be able to meet somebody who was the founder and forerunner of that is critical. And I think you've done great work here. So congratulations again. So, absolutely.
Mr. Mayor, we have no speaker cards for item 2 this evening. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 3A1, selection of 2 City Council members to conduct Simi Valley Cultural Arts Center Foundation Board interviews. And Anna Medina is here to present this item.
Good evening, Mayor Mashburn and members of the City Council. The Simi Valley Cultural Arts Center is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that provides endowment and annual financial support for the Simi Valley Cultural Arts Center. The foundation board is comprised of up to 21 voting members, including 7 City Council appointed public members. Currently, 4 City Council appointed vacancies exist, with terms beginning on October 25th, 2022, and concluding on June 30th, 2026. The city initiated a recruitment that concluded on August 26, 2022. A total of 5 applications were received, and staff estimates that approximately 1 hour will be needed to conduct the 10-minute applicant interviews. Staff is recommending that the City Council select 2 City Council members to interview and nominate 4 applicants to fill the vacancies on the foundation board. Mayor Mashburn and Councilmember Judge served on the nominating committee for the foundation board in August of 2020. This concludes the report, and staff is available to answer any questions at this time.
Okay, any questions of staff?
I don't have a question, but I'd like to volunteer, Mayor.
Okay. Okay, no questions, but volunteer.
I'd like to volunteer also.
Okay. Any other comments?
I move to nominate that Councilmember Ruth Levinos and Councilmember Dee Dee Kavanaugh represent us as the nominating interviewees.
Second. Okay, motion second, call for the vote.
The motion passes unanimously.
Great campaign, you guys.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next item on the agenda is public statements. During this item, on number 4, the City Council will hear public statements from the first 10 persons who have submitted speaker cards. After the first 10 persons have spoken, subsequent persons who submitted speaker cards will be called on to speak during the agenda item 6, which is a continuation of agenda item 4. These are public statements for all items other than public hearings, appointments, and certain committee informational reports. Agenda item 4 and 6 are times allotted for public statements on all items other than public hearings, appointments, and information reports. Speakers will be called on in the order in which their card was submitted to speak for this public statements item 4 for a period of no more than 3 minutes each. Persons addressing the City Council are requested to state their name and community of residence for the record. Mr. Mayor, unless you have any other comments, we can begin public statements.
No comments? Ready for the first speaker.
Thank you. Doug Bamforth? You're up, Doug. Mr. You're number 1.
Good evening. What I'd like to talk about is freedom and laws. In the 80 years that I've lived, I have seen the erosion of our freedoms, sometimes in small amounts, others much larger. I have seen laws passed that have helped us as a country, and some that have eroded our freedoms, mostly the latter. Those we have elected to pass laws that benefit us have failed to protect our freedoms and the greatness of our country, only to enrich themselves. The tort system is supposed to protect us from overzealous laws, but judges routinely go against and to care less about our freedoms. This has caused many cases to work their way to the Supreme Court, who has the final judgment. Nowadays, we see elected officials in the highest positions ignore the judgment of said court. They do this out of greed and lust for power. They picture themselves better than the citizens that they are elected to serve. They feel that they are above the law and only go by the ones that they like or enrich themselves. They try to keep citizen against citizen to remain in power, for freedom is their enemy. We are a country governed by the freedoms guaranteed by our Constitution that they should choose not to follow. What would happen to our country if we all did the same, only obey what laws we feel like are most important? Plus, more importantly, what does it teach our future generations? These freedoms are what people come here from around the world in search of a better life, only to find that nothing has changed. For every freedom you give up, it gives the government, makes the government more powerful, as they are trying to control every aspect of our lives. Our founding fathers knew a lot about overreach of government and tried to protect us by way of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Do not let politicians and government destroy us. I urge everyone to reread the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and stand up for freedom. Thank you.
Sean Wiseman?
Good evening. My name is Sean Wiseman. I'm a resident here in Council District 2. Last time I addressed the council, I spoke about gray water systems as an additional step the city could take towards drought mitigation, unaware that we were hardly doing the bare minimum with reclaimed water. The agreement with Cayeguas regarding the pilot's reclaimed water system project being amended and reinstated tonight was originally made in 1994. That was 28 years ago. Now, I don't know how long a project like this would normally remain in its pilot phase, but it's sort of impressive just how little the city has managed to get done. Page 1 of the original agreement, a goal of the parties is to drought-proof the city and provide a reliable water supply during emergencies. Of course, drought-proof is in quotations because it's an idealistic, impossible goal. But over the past couple decades, the city hasn't even tried to get anywhere close. The current water shortage emergency was declared in April, and the only solution offered by this council has been to restrict outdoor watering to once a week, letting our yards die. In our neighboring city of Thousand Oaks, the Hill Canyon wastewater treatment plant discharges a daily average of 8 million gallons of high-quality reclaimed water. A large percentage of this is diverted from the Caguas Creek and distributed to users, bringing TO $600,000 to $700,000 annually. As for the Simi Valley wastewater treatment plant, per page 2 of the 1994 agreement, the Caguas district has been responsible for the backbone of the system, with the city managing retail distribution to customers. This has changed with some amendments, but the backbone is there. However, the follow-through on the distribution has been severely lacking. Page 4 of the original agreement states that Simi Valley will use its best effort to obtain and maintain a reclaimed water customer base, including, but not necessarily limited to, the Simi Valley landfill. Now, I think it's been far too long that we've had this pilot system in place, and we actually need to take it several steps further and act with a sense of urgency. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you.
Joe Pachowski?
Good evening, Mayor Mashburn, members of the City Council. I didn't think I was the second one tonight. But I'm here tonight because on Thursday night, my wife and I were driving home. We drove down First Street from the freeway and made a right turn onto LA Ave, heading towards Stater Brothers. And it was at that point that I saw something that really concerned me. I work for a company that operates out of the San Fernando Valley. In fact, we're on Glen Oaks Boulevard. If you take the 118 to Glen Oaks, we're up the street on Glen Oaks Boulevard there. And prior to COVID, I saw each and every night what would happen in that neighborhood. Those streets were filled with sidewalk vendors. It just cheapened the entire neighborhood, in my opinion. And on Thursday, I saw something similar starting in our city of Simi Valley. It was at the corner of 3rd Street and Los Angeles Avenue, where there was a pop-up food stand of some sort. I don't know what it was. I didn't stop to get any food there. But I did take some pictures. If any of you would like to see it, I'll be happy to show you later on. This isn't the first time that a pop-up food stand has shown up in our town. Over the spring or summer, I noticed on Nextdoor that there was a fruit stand that was popping up at the corner of Wood Ranch Parkway and Long Canyon several times on the weekends. This is a real slippery slope. If we keep going down this, if we don't do something about enforcing our business license requirements, our sales tax requirements, the county's regulatory requirements as far as food safety go, we're going to end up looking like Glen Oaks Boulevard. And I don't think it's fair to our business community. Councilwoman Luevanos has actually gone as far as to say we should enforce a vacancy tax on the properties that are vacant. Well, when you've got pop-up food stands showing up, that's, rather than forcing them into a place of business, that just doesn't seem fair to A, the property owners, and B, the other businesses in town that are playing by the rules. It's time we make these people play by the rules. We make sure that they've got a license with the city, and that they're meeting the regulatory requirements of the county health department. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rocky Roads.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council, Mr. Gabler, and staff. My name is Rocky Rhodes. I'm a resident of Bridle Path up here in Simi Valley, and I am running for City Council in District 4. I have a couple of things to discuss this evening. First, I wanted to thank the Police Explorers Post 2910 for the Cops and Cruisers car show held yesterday. What a positive event on a somber day, and what a great way to bring our community closer together. But second, and slightly ironically, it's the same, I want to talk about the same topic that Joe just talked about. I want to make a request for information and clarification of the city's position on sidewalk vending. And here's why I asked the question. I lived in the San Fernando Valley for many years. I owned a coffee roasting company there, and I started in farmers markets selling under the temporary event permit. I had to manufacture my food in a licensed food prep facility. I grew my business into a box trailer and converted that, and had to spend thousands of dollars to get that trailer licensed to vend food. And I also had to arrange to store it in a licensed commissary every night. I then built a commissary and rented space to others so that they could do the same thing. This week, I came across the same pop-up restaurant in Los Angeles near First, and having to comply with food safety rules, I could see that this was likely in violation of several health department regulations. I was also upset as a past coffee shop owner that someone with a pop-up tent and non-NSF approved equipment could just set up shop on a sidewalk. This seems massively unfair to other restaurants that spend tens of thousands of dollars to open their businesses and play by the rules just to have someone show up and potentially take business away without any oversight. So I started researching, and I found once again that the lawmakers in Sacramento have tied the city's hands and passed SB 946 back in 2018. It restricts cities from criminal enforcement and dictates what regulations can be in place. Sacramento allows sidewalk vendors in Simi, and there's little we can do, but there is something that we can do. And my question then for the council is this: what have we done to create regulations to control the sidewalk phenomenon, and has there been any enforcement? I understand the restaurant mentioned earlier is probably best enforced by our county health department, but I want to know from the city if they are required to have a business license. Do the sidewalk vendors report sales, and do we collect taxes from them? I support small business in Simi Valley. However, in my opinion, the sidewalk vending is bad for our small business in the following ways. It makes our city look cluttered, dirty, and will soon look like the streets of San Fernando Valley. It lessens revenue from businesses that have made significant effort and expense to play by the rules. And three, the city's losing tax revenues if these are unlicensed entities. And by state law, they cannot be criminally charged, so there's virtually no consequence for their illegal behavior. Why would they play by the rules? Thank you for listening to my concerns tonight. I look forward to hearing Simi's approach to handling this issue.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, that was the last speaker.
Okay. We'll go with comments from the council. And we'll start with Councilmember Luevanos.
Can you hear me now? Yes? Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank all the speakers who came and spoke. Thank you, Mr. Banforth, for coming to talk about our Constitution. It is the basis of our democracy, so I appreciate you talking about that. I am a social studies teacher. I talk about it every single day in my class. Mr. Rhodes and Mr. Pachowski, I just want to make you aware that it was Governor Jerry Brown that signed Senate Bill 946, the Safe Sidewalk Vending Act, a while ago. So it wasn't just the current government. It's been in place for a while. We would be facing liability as a city if we chose to criminally prosecute sidewalk vendors. I do not recall, well, let me address first, I really, really hate the disparagement of the San Fernando Valley, seeing as how many of us are only able to afford living in Simi Valley because of our employment in San Fernando Valley, which both of you alluded to. So I really hate that you continue to disparage San Fernando Valley. There are many people from Simi Valley that drive to San Fernando Valley because of the sidewalk vendors, because they want to go there. Furthermore, I have asked, and it is on the record, city manager previously when we were having sidewalk vendors and selling politically charged flags. And I was informed that there was nothing that was to be done about that. And so regardless of who the vendor is, they are protected by California law, and we cannot criminally prosecute them. We cannot disparage them, and if they are going to be harassed, they can file suit, not just against individuals, but against the city. So please be aware that there is state law that is protecting those sidewalk vendors, and please refrain from disparaging the San Fernando Valley, from which many of us, including yourselves, make our living. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Litster.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bamforth. We need to be reminded of our tremendous Constitution freedoms upon which we stand and are blessed. So thank you very much for your comments. Mr. Wiseman, I think we are having those water conversations. I think you're right that it's appropriate to discuss, and when we get to that item on consent calendar, I'm sure there'll be more discussion that is related to that. With regards to Mr. Piechowski and Mr. Rhodes' comments about street vending, I actually understand the concern and had several constituents who've reached out with me about that concern earlier this year. And it is my understanding, and City Manager Gabriel will correct me if I'm wrong, but it's my understanding that currently our police and with the city manager there is discussing what is appropriate regulation. Obviously, you can't criminalize, and I think you make the case very well that we want to be sure that there's proper licensing and that would be appropriate. And so certainly in no way are we trying to say that it's illegal to do what people are doing when selling on the sidewalk, but I think we do want to be sure it is done appropriately and fairly as best we can. And so if I'm not mistaken, maybe correct me, we are having something that's coming forth possibly to discuss that, but I'll wait for comment. Thank you.
Councilmember Judge.
Yes, I want to thank everybody for speaking and coming to speak. Thank you, Doug, for your words. Very important for us all to understand that and be reminded every time, especially after what happened our day yesterday on Patriots Day. That being said, on the street vendors, correct me if I'm wrong, City Manager, but the state passed this, Jerry Brown signed it, as we were just told. Great. They still have to have the health permit, though. Correct? Yes. Okay. If they have to have a health permit, then they can't operate if they don't have one, period. It's not criminalizing. They're just not operating. They can't operate. Our police department can go there and tell them to leave the sidewalk. It's that easy. You can do that in LA, too. They just don't because they choose not to enforce it. But I agree with Rocky that people, we have people in this town that pay thousands and thousands of dollars for their permits to open their restaurants and stuff. So I think we should make sure that at least these establishments, if they're going to pop up, that they have at least the health permit. That's it.
Councilmember Kavanaugh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Remember, by the way, you owe me some money.
We'll talk about that later. Thank you
just
very
saying.
much. I take care of my obligations, so we'll be okay.
We'll see.
I also just want to thank everybody for coming out and speaking. Don't ask why I owe him money. I'll explain it later. It's really nice to hear everybody's thoughts and processes, or thoughts and ideas on what's going on in town. We need more of that. We need more involvement. We had 4 speakers tonight, and how many people do we have in town? So, encourage people to let us know. My neighbors have no problem letting me know what they think. So that's the way it should be. I did just want to point out, just to Mr. Wiseman, just give you a little bit of a heads up or information. I was on our park board for 6 years, and one of the things we discussed was possibly using the reclaimed water for both of the golf courses. It's cost prohibitive only because there's nobody else that wants to use it. So where our Sinaloa golf course would be a little bit okay, but where Simi Hills is, it's uphill. We'd have to have pumping stations the whole way, and we would have to repipe the entire golf course. Not to say it can't be done. I thought I would have liked to have pushed it a little bit when I was on the board. So maybe now with our the drought, maybe we will have other businesses and our entities that might be interested in possibly helping with the cost at some point. It's not going to happen overnight, but we do need to keep moving on that and keep pushing that. And I'll keep bothering the city manager about it every once in a while. So, but I just wanted to give you that little bit of background. You can always talk to the Park District too. All right, thank you. That's it, thank you.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Lister, you want up again? Your name's, okay, that's no problem. Okay, Doug, I agree with everything you said, with one little section. The enrichment of all of the politicians. I'm sure everybody on this diet would be happy to show you our pay, and I think you would not include us in that group of politicians that is so widely paid, which they are, you're absolutely right, but not this one. So I just want to make that one little correction. Mr. Wiseman, I believe you're running for council, am I correct? Okay, as a rookie, maybe that would be a good thing to announce when you come up that you're running for council. I'm not sure you did or not, I didn't catch it, but no big deal. But also, when you come up and criticize, you would really lend yourself a lot of credibility if you also had solutions. And show us where this revenue is going to come, that you're going to pump this water all over the city. And any one of us would be happy to discuss it with you, show you the research that's been done, how long we've been working on that. So I offer that to you as a help for your future in politics. Joe and Rocky, you both spoke on the same subject of the sidewalk vendors. I think it's been said, but there are requirements, and it's health department, what have you. I'll be asking the city attorney to line out those requirements, what is needed, what isn't needed, because I believe, and I'm not going to say I'm an expert on it, but if you're selling, like in the case that was brought up, flags, there's no need for health department licensing or inspection. However, if you're serving food or edibles, however they want to word it, I think then we're looking at something entirely different. And I also believe that if you're doing business in Simi Valley, you need a business license. And I was made aware of the sidewalk vendor the other evening and made a phone call, and within a very short time, they were gone. I don't know if it was the rain coming in or if our police department went out and took care of it by asking to see the appropriate licensing. But it's not that we're not addressing it, it's that we have to be very cautious and address it correctly, because there are legal rights and then there are areas where we can make rules that they have to adhere to. So we will continue to look into that. I will say real quickly, when I go by those places, I go, where's their handicap parking? Where do they go to the bathroom? Where do they wash their hands after they go to the bathroom? And they're going to handle food that I might be buying. So there's a lot of things there, and I have no idea if the state's waiving the need to wash your hands. Is the state waiving the need to have bathrooms? Is the state waiving the need to have hot water? But we'll look into that and be well-versed on it. So thank you for your questions. And city manager, maybe you have some insight, because I know we funnel all the calls to him.
So the, actually it was a taco vendor, as it were. We've had 5 encounters with that vendor over the last week and a half. Our police department and our code enforcement officers have done a good job of asking well, let me back up. There's 2 different issues on sidewalk vendors. One is if you're on the California law passed in September of 2018, as was cited, allows for street vendors to be on a sidewalk as long as 2 things are in place. One is they're not blocking the public access, and 2, that they have a local business license, or in Simi Valley's case, a business tax. The cooking of the food is a different issue, and that is illegal. We have had 5 encounters with this person over the last week and a half. The County of Ventura is very interested in this individual. If you look on their website, they put out a notice just today as a warning to the public that among the issues the mayor brought up is that what they're doing is illegal. There is no health permit. They are not following any health rules, and caution people not to take part in that business. We will continue to aggressively enforce that because it is not illegal for someone to be cooking on the sidewalk, especially without a business tax in Simi Valley, which they did not have. And we will continue to enforce that until the laws are different. And we are in contact with the County Environmental Health. They are very interested in this individual. They've encountered these people. We are not the only ones in Ventura County that have had to deal with this. Oxnard and several other communities have had to deal with it recently, and we're all kind of in the same boat. And we're going to continue to work with law enforcement, code enforcement, and Ventura County Health to make sure that it is all brought into legal status.
Thank you.
Mayor, may I just add one more thing real quick? Mr. Rhodes, it sounded as if to me that you were making a Public Records Act request. And so if you are, it'll be helpful to staff if you can maybe put it in writing so we can be clear as to exactly what you're looking for. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is public hearings. This is a time for public testimony on hearings on the consideration of matters as presented on this agenda. Let the record show that due notice was given as required by law, and an affidavit to this effect is on file in the office of the City Clerk. All comments submitted by email have already been provided to the City Council and will be made part of the record. However, they will not be read by the City Clerk this evening. Speakers will be called on in the order in which a card was submitted for this public testimony item 5 for a period of no more than 5 minutes each. Persons addressing the City Council are requested to state their name and community of residence for the record. Comments shall be limited to matters relevant to the item on the agenda and may be ruled out of order if comments are unrelated to the item. The reports of the city staff relating to these matters shall be made part of the record of this meeting. If you challenge in court any of the City Council decisions made here tonight, you will be limited to raising only those issues you or someone else raised at this public hearing. The time within which judicial review must be sought is governed by California Code of Civil Procedure, Section 1094.6. And Mr. Mayor, we do not have any public comment cards for this item yet.
Okay.
Let me do that.
Staff report.
Agenda item 5, a public hearing to consider city-initiated Simi Valley Municipal Code Text Amendment Z-S-2021-004 to revise portions of Title IX to provide procedures for voluntary lot mergers, a determination that the amendment is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, and introduction of an ordinance. The reading of the ordinance is as follows. Ordinance number 1343, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Simi Valley approving a city-initiated municipal code text amendment Z-S-2021-0004 to amend portions of Title IX of the Simi Valley Municipal Code to provide procedures for voluntary lot mergers and a determination that the amendment is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act. And Cesar Hernandez and Sean Gibson are here for this presentation.
Good morning, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor Mashburn, members of the City Council.
Don't follow my lead.
Good evening. This is just one of the several development code updates that we are working on throughout the year. This voluntary lot mergers, which will hopefully improve customer service and expediting various projects. Our Associate Planner, Cesar Hernandez, will do the presentation.
Thank you, City Planner. Planning staff will be presenting a proposed text amendment for City Council considering to provide procedures for voluntary lot mergers. A voluntary lot merger occurs when two or more contiguous parcels are combined into a single legal parcel and is requested by the property owner. The parcels to be merged have to be owned by the same person or entity. Currently, the city does not have a procedure to process voluntary lot mergers. This request would create a process similar to what the County of Ventura allows. Without having specific procedures within the municipal code, voluntary lot mergers are being processed via a lengthy lot line adjustment and a certificate of compliance process. This code amendment would streamline the process. This item was presented to the Planning Commission on September 8, 2021, and on June 2022, and was recommended for approval by a 5-0 vote. This is an example of two vacant contiguous parcels. The voluntary lot merger request would delete the property line shown and allow for the property owner initiated merger under the same ownership and allow the property owner to further develop their property by meeting setbacks and density requirements in the development code. Voluntary lot mergers would also allow for a more developable project, especially for small and odd-shaped lots, and allow a property to clean up lot lines for other purposes without having to go through more complex reviews. The Planning Commission recommends that the City Council approve Zone Text Amendment Z-S-2021-0004 and determine that the amendments are exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act. This concludes staff presentation. Staff will address any questions from City Council.
Okay, questions from Elaine Litzner.
Sorry, thank you. I do just a handful of questions, because this is quite interesting to me. First of all, does this process guarantee an acceptance outcome? In other words, I read through the report. There are cases where obviously it would be problematic as far as differences in zoning or, or et cetera. And so there are cases where it wouldn't. But let's say we've got two homes, we've got a neighborhood. The person buys that house next door, and basically, in essence, doubles the size of their lot, which would be twice as big as everyone else in the neighborhood. Do they have a guaranteed outcome, I guess, is what I'm asking? Because the zoning is the same, et cetera. Or is there discretion at the administrative level to deny, or to say, we're not sure, we want to bump it up to the Planning Commission?
Yeah, there's specific standards that they have to meet in order to approve a voluntary merger: zoning, minimum lot size, things of that nature. So while there's not really discretion, it does have to comply with the code.
And you can appeal a certificate of compliance at the staff level, so that it can go to Planning Commission if need be, or up to a council as well.
But I guess what I'm asking is, would you ever deny for something that, you've outlawed, for instance, the instance I just gave you, it would still meet setbacks, et cetera, but basically you're doubling the size so that one lot is twice as big as everyone else in that specific neighborhood. Would you ever make that decision? Because I think that would be acceptable given this.
Right, it's not likely it would be denied.
Okay.
If all the objective criteria
If
is
all
met.
the objective, okay, so they no longer, okay. Can you tell me what is meant by without reverting to acreage, page 11, and I'm sorry that I wasn't quite understanding that phrase. That's where you, let me get to page 11. It's your overview. Purpose. The purpose of this section is to establish ministerial procedures for processing voluntary merger applications with regard to merging contiguous lots under common ownership into a single lot without reverting to acreage. What is meant by without reverting to acreage?
That's a Subdivision Map Act land development term, which is another way to kind of like decommission a property, de-subdivide it. It's a whole other process. The voluntary lot merger process or a lot merger is like combining two lots into one lot in an already established area. Reversion to acreage is a more complicated process that we're not focusing on tonight.
It would normally be used if you're placing a piece of property in a position where it wouldn't be developed, if it had an earthquake fault running through it. So you could take that parcel and revert it to acreage, which gets deed restricted, so it doesn't end up being developed upon.
Okay, thank you. Is there a maximum number of lots that can be merged? Let's say we've got someone who comes in and buys up all of the 6, 7, 8 homes, et cetera, and then says, okay, or same thing for commercial. I realize it's resident, we're talking residential and or commercial. Is there a cap in any way on the number of, or should we be placing a cap on the number of lots that can be merged?
There is no reference to a cap as far as number of lots. There's instances where, maybe not in the city, Simi Valley itself, but there are sometimes illegal lots created that we have to resolve through voluntary merger. There could be several illegal lots created 80, 90 years ago, which through land speculation, where the current property owner may want to clean title and just make it one lot. So some of these, some areas, for example, just in the outskirts of the city and the county areas, there was land speculation where they sold these lots up in Mar Ranch that had like postage stamp size lots. And perhaps if that wasn't the city limits, this could be a method to combine those into one legally bound lot.
I think if your concern is if you can combine a number of lots and build a number of homes on them, at that point, you're becoming a subdivision, which would require a parcel map and subdivision map over it.
And I guess maybe more my concern is actually commercial. Is that if someone comes in and buys 7 or 8 lots on LA Avenue all together because they want to put in a mega whatever mall, I would like us to have a conversation to be part of that discussion. And what I'm hearing is that could just be done in the ministerial. Obviously, the development would come to us eventually, but I'm just wondering if we should maybe have a cap, not that it can't be done, but just at least that there can be a discussion at the planning level if, in that instance, let's say cap it at 4 lots or something.
Well, but
Does
the
that make
advantage you
sense?
have if you have commercial lots is you could end up having reciprocal parking, which may make it better for that area.
Oh, agreed.
So-
and I'm not saying it's
But
bad. I'm just saying,
but any development any change in use, you could combine the parcels, but anytime you do anything on those parcels that leads to development has to come before the planning commission and or city council.
Okay. Can you provide a recent example where a request was made and because this was not in place, the merger had to be discussed at the planning commission level? Has this been an issue or something recently? Or are you just cleaning up the books? It's just kind of it.
I think I could give some input on that particular question. There was a home here in the valley, and that home had an attached parcel next to it that happened to be a street that was never built, and that piece of property was given to the homeowner. So there he had 2 parcel numbers, and we were looking at it for whatever purpose. The city came out and looked at it and said, this makes no sense to do it this way. If we make this one property, it'll be much better for the homeowner and the ability to build what would be a ADU.
And in that instance, they had to go to the planning commission and the council? Is that what you're saying?
I don't think so. I think it was held at the, rectified at the staff level. But what it was the city planning department actually discovered that they would be able to help the homeowner because by making it one parcel, it would actually help them and it would have no effect on neighboring properties, except, now their lot's a little bigger than the others. But
I hear. Thank you, Mayor. Okay. And I'm not opposed to this. I just want to make it clear. I just want to understand and make sure that we have put it in place where it truly serves our citizens
and
the
please
best.
remember, anything, I think they said, anything that they do is subject to appeal by the planning and by this.
Well, a denial would be subject to appeal. What they are doing, though, if I understand correctly, is that this is a ministerial approval. If it meets everything that they in their list, it will be approved.
Correct. Yeah.
So the appeal is only if it gets denied, and what I'm hearing right now is it's not going to be denied unless it doesn't meet the criteria. There's some zoning issues, there's some
Normally what happens
general
is-
plan issues or whatever that are differences.
normally what happens, we consult with our Deputy Public Works Director as the best way to achieve this combined parcel. It could be a lot line adjustment, parcel map, a tentative map, and it's also based on if there's an entitlement application, which would go to the Planning Commission or City Council. A lot of times these are cleanup measures to your property where their bank needs a lot merge for some reason, or it's just some sliver lot like Mayor Mashburn referenced that is combined. These are generally simplified items. In some instances, there's title issues where there's illegal subdivisions or situation that we can't resolve quickly. Now, a recent item that came up in the past year or so was an industrial area which had some of these unusual shaped lots. If we had the lot merger, this voluntary lot merger in process, it would have made the process quicker. I think our public works staff did a great job getting it figured out with that developer. It took a lot longer, but it was accomplished.
So the outcome is the same, but it was just much longer.
Yeah,
Got it.
I'm not aware of a lot merger that's been denied, quite frankly. And what this is doing is there are other avenues to do this.
Mhm.
This is just trying to simplify the whole process.
Got it. One final question, and this is a theoretical, particularly like in commercial. Could this potentially affect property tax assessments? In the sense that you have 2 lots, 3 lots, once you go to 1 lot, you are only going to be assessing for 1 entity. Is that correct?
I don't know if the county would reassess it after a lot. It probably would, because you're creating a new assessor parcel number out of the 2 lots. So there is a chance that the properties could be reassessed at likely a higher rate, a higher value. You're taking 2 parcels and putting them together, and the value of those 2 parcels are more together than they would be independently.
That'll be for the county to assess.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something that we would do, but it's possible there would be
I
some
was just thinking
increase in
I was
property
thinking the
tax.
opposite. If you had 2 buildings, you tore 1 down, you were getting property tax on both, but who knows? Okay, it is the county issue. Fair enough. Thank you.
Councilmember Luevanos.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a couple of questions. On page 3 of the report, it says that when lots with different zoning districts are merged, the new combined lot would be zoned to match the more restrictive zoning designation. And I see also that this is, the lot mergers, same paragraph, it's the second to last paragraph on page 3, that lot mergers allow for a more developable project. And if that's the purpose, if that's the goal of this, why make it so restrictive? My concern is you have someone that has an odd-shaped, 2 odd-shaped lots next to each other. 90% of the lot is one density. 10% of the lot is a different density, but you're going to make the whole lot go with the more restrictive density on the 10% of the lot. Is that correct?
That is correct, and that is the code. So if someone chose to merge, the more restrictive zone would apply.
So that could result, theoretically, I'm walking you through on this one, that if someone chose to build, 3 single-family homes there, but they don't have enough parking or storage, that separate lot would be, you couldn't use that. You couldn't merge that lot so that you could use it for those 3 homes because it's a separate parcel and it has a different density.
That is correct, and this voluntary lot merger may not be the best avenue for that situation. That a traditional parcel map and a zone change might be the more appropriate method to achieve those 3 lots. So that's an instance where the voluntary merger may not even be considered for that person.
But the purpose of this law is to make it easier to merge lots, right? That's what it says in the report.
Yes.
So why are we making those people go through that process? If 90%, if I wish it would have been more something like prorated, like, hey, this is one density, this is a different density, and we split the baby, something like that. But to make someone that has a small, odd-shaped lot go with the lower density of the smaller lot, right? Because in this, I didn't see anywhere in here where it takes into account the percentage of the different lots, right? I didn't see that in here anywhere. Did I miss it?
No, you didn't miss it. The voluntary merger is for those situations where they comply with all these standards and volunteer to merge their lots for their purposes. The situation on the zoning is a completely separate matter where there's two different zones and you got to go through a legislative process to change a zone. We can't change the zone with the voluntary merger process.
But you are changing the zone to more restrictive zoning. So that is zone changing. That's what this is. It says it will, when I'm reading this, if a zoning, this is on page 3, SVMC section 9-20.030B.2 states, quote, if a zoning district boundary divides or splits a parcel, the entire parcel shall be deemed to be included within the zoning district that is the most restrictive. So isn't that changing zoning?
There has to be a zoning assigned to the new parcel,
Right, but why make it more restrictive?
because that's what our code currently provides. If the owner of the property of the now larger parcel is looking at something to doing more dense, they would have to come through with a development application to the city anyway. At that time, they would ask for an increase in density of the zoning as part of their development, rather than upzoning the property as part of this merger. The merger only will accomplish the bringing together of the parcels at the most restrictive zoning. If they want to do something more dense, that's part of an overall application they would have to come through anyway. They couldn't just decide to build without any approvals from the city.
But they're not asking for a higher density. It's already, the larger portion of the parcel is already at a higher density. And the smaller portion of the parcel, say like the 10% or 5%, is not. That's at a lower density, but you can't do anything with an empty lot. So the way we are writing this, if we pass it the way it is today, possibly feasibly, there will be people that will not voluntarily merge, and so they'll keep the higher density for the one lot and the 90% of the lot, and then the adjacent 10% lot will remain empty because it'll be at a lower density, and you have to go through this entire process. And to me, that seems counterintuitive when it states clearly here in the report that the whole purpose of this law is to allow for a more developable project.
If you have a parcel that is, say, 90% high density, 10% low density, you try to do this merger, you end up with a low density lot. Now you're going to come through and want to build an apartment complex on it. Because you've added that lot, now you can get because you've now merged them together, you have a larger piece of property. You now have a denser piece of property. If you were to change the zoning to a higher density, you've got more land to get more density out of it. If they were to not, let's just say, if they were not want to do it they don't want to do this lot merger, they can come through with a parcel map and a development and go through the same process anyway. By merging them together, it allows them to know what their density is moving forward. It also can probably help in financing and with their construction costs and everything else, because now you've got one piece of property, as opposed to coming to the city with a proposed development that's two parcels that have to be merged at the end of the development application. So this is facilitating the process at an earlier date rather than a later date.
But this is only facilitating the process for those who wish to have a lower density.
They certainly can go to a higher density, but they would come through as a development application.
As a more difficult process.
As a process they'd have to go through anyway.
And it retains the Planning Commission's authority and our authority to oversee the general plan, oversee zoning. If ministerial we grant it, we lose some of our authority. Not that it can't happen, but I think it's important that we keep that in the code.
It just seems counterintuitive to me. Our purpose, and later on in the city council meeting, I don't want to violate the Brown Act, but we are going to look at the consent calendar in terms of, density of housing and making sure that we have that dense housing. This is an opportunity to allow people to have that denser housing. Our economy is stagnant. We have vacant retail space because workers cannot work here, and businesses cannot come here if their workers cannot live here. And unless we allow the opportunity for more density, then we're going to have these ugly, empty lots next to denser, if I had to build apartments. And as far as financing for banks, it would be easier for me if I had a denser building to have both lots merged at the higher density level. As a bank, that's less risk for me because I know you're going to make more money because it's a denser development. So in terms of, getting financing and helping those that want to build, it would be more helpful. Even if you don't go for the full higher density, if you split the baby, if you prorated it somehow so that you don't, just automatically lower the density instead of making them go through the process. Again, I'm just going back to the purpose of this was to allow a more developable project.
Okay,
So
well,
can
I
we
think
change it?
Can
I ask a question, Mayor?
I just want to say, we've discussed this, now we need to come to a conclusion. We don't want to keep being repetitive.
Okay, so can I just ask a question?
Yes.
Okay, so right now, as it's written, okay, this is a proposal, right? So this is not a law yet, right? This is not an ordinance yet, correct?
That's correct.
So we can change it.
Sure.
Yes?
It's before you tonight for approval.
Okay, so may I make a motion, Mayor?
I don't think it'd be appropriate to make a motion prior to hearing if there's any public comments.
Okay, after public comments, I would like to make a motion. Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, we have no public comment.
Okay, Mayor, I'd like to make a motion. Oh, I'm sorry.
Hold on. Dee Dee, I'm sorry, I didn't see.
That's okay. I just have a real quick question. I think I can clarify. So right now, if you have two lots with different densities, you can't merge them without going through the longer system or the longer, what were you describing? I'm sorry, Mr. Gibson. You'd have to go through the development and the proposals and all that type of a thing, a lot line adjustment and all that. So that's a lot of work. The purpose of this law is that if you look at your properties and it's beneficial to you to do this, we're now making it much easier.
That's correct.
Correct? Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
But it would only make it easier if you're going for the lower density, not for a higher density of the two lots.
My comment was if it's beneficial to you, this makes it easier.
For
So
lower
thank you.
density.
Yes, just like the example I gave. It turned out it was beneficial to them, and they didn't have any desire to change zoning, anything like that. Okay, do we have any public speakers?
Mr. Mayor, we have no public speakers.
Okay.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion.
Is staff, and just 1 second, and we're there, but staff, do you want to say anything else?
Municipal Planner Pedroso has a comment.
Yes, maybe this will help clarify some of the matter. So the subdivision map act is the one that establishes these requirements. The process is being done now as a lot line adjustment. If you're going to just merge the two lots, subdivision map act says you have to go with a lower zoning and lower general plan designation. If you want to increase the zoning or the general plan designation, then you go through the other process. So it's just as simple as that. We're doing it now. We're just actually putting it on the code so we have it established process and requirements.
So this is a state code, not municipal code.
That's correct.
Yes, we're just adding it to our municipal code because right now we don't have it.
Okay, so bottom line for the layman mayor is you're just trying to speed up the process and take some bureaucracy out of the process.
That's correct.
Okay, Councilmember Luevanos.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion because this city and this council has a history of not allowing denser developments, and we all know the reasons why. And I would like to streamline that process. So I would like to make a motion for this ordinance to be changed for where it says section 9-20.030.b.2. If a zoning district boundary divides or splits a parcel, the entire parcel shall be deemed to be included within the zoning district. And instead of that is the most restrictive, to strike that is the most restrictive and say to balance the zoning to be subdivided to allow for development under the appropriate zoning district for each parcel. I think we should be fair to the landowners here and streamline it for everyone, not just for those seeking lower density.
Okay, wait, we're making a motion, not giving an opinion.
First of all, if I can, I want to make sure that the public hearing was closed.
Thank you. Yeah, close the public hearing
And
portion.
second, I just haven't seen the evidence to date in support of what Councilman Luevano said. Just, I wanted to state that for the record. And then
Okay.
we're ready to entertain a motion.
Well, I mean, if I may, Dave, what Councilmember Lovenos would want would violate the California MAP Act. Is that correct?
Yes.
So we wouldn't be able, I'm not sure if we would be able to do it anyway.
Correct.
Okay.
So the California law requires the most restrictive zoning?
I actually, from a legal perspective, I'm fine with that approach. I think Mr. Gabler actually explained the process adequately and correctly. I really do. And so that's proper from a legal perspective.
Okay, so we aren't necessarily violating California law if we allow a pro-rate version of the zoning.
Ready for a motion.
Okay, we have a motion. Am I correct?
You have a motion.
We have a
We
motion.
have a motion. We need a second for that motion to move forward.
The motion fails for lack of a second.
Mr. Mayor, I move to introduce ordinance number 1343, approving Z-S-2021-004 to amend portions of Title IX of the Simi Valley Municipal Code to provide procedures for voluntary lot mergers and a determination that the amendment is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Call for the vote.
Councilmember Lovenos? Thank you. I apologize. The motion passes with Councilmember Lovenos Odino. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, the next item on the agenda is item 7, the consent calendar, and there are 2 resolutions for your consideration this evening. Consent item number 4, resolution number 2022-50, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Simi Valley confirming and renewing the proclamation of the existence of a local emergency, and resolution number 2022-51, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Simi Valley confirming the existence of a local emergency and authorizing remote teleconference meetings of the legislative bodies of the City of Simi Valley pursuant to Brown Act provisions.
For a motion?
Mayor, I'd like to pull consent items 1 and 2, please.
1 and 2. Okay, we want to pull consent 1 and 2.
And I will gladly make a motion to approve consent items 3, 4, and 5.
Second.
Okay, a motion with a second to approve 3, 4, and 5.
The motion is unanimous for items 3, 4, and 5.
Okay, questions on consent 1?
I'm waiting for staff. I don't know who staff is. Is this Mr. Gabler?
I'm sorry, yes.
Yes, you're the staff? Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
Julio Ramirez is here as well, so.
Okay, I wanted to give whoever's coming down an opportunity to come down. Okay. Are you ready for me? Yes?
Ready.
Okay, I'm looking at page 10 of the report. It's page 10 on top, it's page 4 on the bottom, just so you know. And I see that for funding to improve supply of affordable housing, it says CDBG funds were $65,242. And that was for, the indicators were rental units rehabilitated by energy efficiency project. And the unit of measure was the household housing unit, but for the expected strategic plan, there was 0. And then the actual strategic plan, there were 12, which meant 100% was complete. So can you explain the difference between expected? So were we not expecting to do that, and then it got done anyways?
Well, it's a little confusing because I don't have all of the information. As you're aware, we do this, we do the consolidated plan on a regional basis. So we don't have all of the other applications that came through that were processed with our cities in the county that we do the consolidated plan with. That's why it has 0. The 12 that were done was an application that was processed here in our city that we funded. That's what that speaks about.
Okay, and then the line right underneath that, that says, again, improved supply of affordable housing. And it says Cal Home 0 and Home $250,790. And the extended strategic plan says for 15, the actual strategic plan just says 7. But under percent complete, it says 0. So does that mean people applied, they didn't get approved? Can you explain what happened there?
Again, this particular table is very confusing. I do apologize. It's not one that we ourselves come up with. But what happens is that the goal is to fund, this is for the home rehab program, the goal is to fund approximately 15 per year, if not more. And this is the expected strategic plan is, again, the regional plan, and the actual is the action plan that we did.
Okay, and then I'm sorry, right below that, the
Okay.
CDBG funds.
Correct.
Is that for us, for Simi Valley, or is that regional as well?
That is for us.
That is for us, so.
Correct.
For non-homeless special needs, it says CDBG funds were $23,328, and that under persons assisted, it's 1,041, so that's how many people were helped with that $23,000?
Correct.
Or that's what we expected, but we actually only helped 200.
Correct.
So the percent complete is 19% next to that, right? But then it says percent complete to the right, it says 80%. So again, that's a little confusing to me.
So the expected strategic plan is the consolidated plan. The actual plan is the action plan.
Okay. Okay, and hold on, there was one more question I had here. On page 12 of the same report, it says, it gives the racial and ethnic composition of families assisted. And I see that, under, for CDBG funds, which is our funding, right, city funding, yes?
Correct, yes.
It says that 172 white people were assisted, only 6 Black or African American, only 6 Asian, only 2 American Indian or Native American, only 2 Native Hawaiian, and only 41 Hispanic. And I don't know whether or not you can answer this question, or if you can, I'm sure you know where my questioning is going. Why is there such racial disparity? Is that where we're putting our funding, or how we're doing outreach, or why that's a huge disparity?
This is how the people are self-reporting.
Okay, so their self-reporting is?
Correct.
Okay. And I'm just curious, when they're self-reporting, and I don't know if you know this or not, but I'm a very data-driven person, so can people report as Hispanic and white, or can they choose one and not the other, or do they have to choose both? Because that could skew the statistics as well.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. I'm sorry, I have another question here. For page 14, it says the program income received for loan and sale proceeds received, I'm on the bottom of page 14, totaled 1.4 million, basically. And it says for the following loan payoffs, and it was housing successor agency developer loans for $356,000. Was that for low income developers or for-profit developers? Do you know by any chance?
I don't know off the top of my head. This is just the program income.
Okay, so we don't know if it was, do you know, Mr. Gabler?
It would be coming out of an affordable housing project, whether it's a for-profit developer or a nonprofit developer. That I don't know.
Okay. And it says here that in the same page, it says the city contracted with 3 local serving agencies to carry out programs and projects that provided supportive human services to low and moderate income residents. Would that be any of our nonprofit developers? Or would you happen to know, are we talking about Samaritan Center? Who are we talking about?
Yeah, wasn't it the 3 that was spoken of in the beginning? The Samaritan Center was one of them. What were the other 2? It was
Senior Concerns and Many Mansions.
Thank you, Senior Concerns and Many Mansions, yes. Thank you.
I have two more questions, I believe. On page 17 of the report, it says, discuss how these outcomes will impact future annual action plans. And I know that the first-time homebuyer program was discontinued in 2012 as a result of the dissolution of redevelopment agencies. However, we still had redevelopment funds. So none of those funds were used for this first-time homebuyer program? Because we still had redevelopment funds as of 2012 when the first homebuyer, when the redevelopment agencies were dissolved. So did any of that money go towards this first-time homebuyer program?
Yeah, no, we shifted funding to the home program, is that correct?
Correct.
Yes. So for the first-time homebuyer program, it shifted to the home program.
Okay. Okay, those are all the questions I have. I know we're receiving the report, but I just wanted to get more details because there's so much in here, and people always ask, what are we doing for new rental housing, housing support and stability? I'm sorry, I do have one more question here, and it was regarding one of the programs and whether or not people knew about it and if it's going to continue. On page 16, it talks about qualified homeowners of detached single-family residences are eligible for a deferred 2% loan of $50,000 with no monthly payments. And this is for the city's home rehab program. Was this, and I see that 0 households were helped. So it says number of homeless households to be provided affordable housing units was 0, number of non-homeless households to be provided affordable housing units 0, number of special needs households to be provided affordable housing units 0. So was this advertised in any way, this 2% deferred loan for $50,000? Because I know there's a lot of people that are trying to fix their air conditioning right now, or the roofs, or just plumbing, because all our housing stock is really aging. So was that advertised in any way to our residents?
It is, and we've been advertising the home rehab program. However, right now we are reconstituting the home rehab program. It's a little bit is more restrictive than we want it to be. So we're going through a reevaluation of the program. We hope to have it out within the next 6 months and have a different program out that's going to free up more money and to have less restrictions on how the money is used.
And I would ask, in order to close the racial gap that we saw in this report, that be advertised in Spanish as well.
Sure,
to serve our large Hispanic community here, and so that they're well aware, and that it's advertised on social media as well. I noticed that, it said Caper was advertised at City Hall and the library. Not everyone comes to City Hall to read what's going on every day. No, believe it or not. So that could be advertised on social media.
Absolutely.
That would be great. These funds are to help our community with housing needs, and the more we can do that outreach, the better.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Julia.
Okay, I'm assuming that you're satisfied with all those questions and you're move forward with voting for.
Would you like a motion for number 1, or do you want to wait for number 2 to discuss? I'm sorry, Mayor, do you want me to move that we accept item number 1?
Please.
I so move that we approve the draft fiscal year consolidated annual performance evaluation report.
Second.
Okay, motion is second to accept number 1, consent 1. Call for the vote.
For consent 1, the motion passes unanimously.
Okay, number 2, Councilmember Luevanos. I think that was you, wasn't it?
Yes, it was me. Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I just have a question, and this is with regards to a statement made by Mr. Wiseman earlier for public comments. But we did allow, this agreement expired in November of 2021. Is there a reason why we didn't reinstate it then?
I think we were still under discussions with Callejas about the agreement and and making sure that we were all aligned with agreeing to it as it currently is. With the drought that's taking place, there's obviously a number of different issues that are going on with recycled water. So it was just an ongoing discussion.
So does all of our recycled water only go to the Simi Valley landfill right now?
No, so just a little bit of background on the recycled water, just so the council is aware. The downside with the recycled water is it is at the what we call PSC, the Public Services Center, is at the lowest point of Simi Valley, which is at about 600 feet above sea level. Cuner is at about 1,200 feet above sea level. So anywhere that water travels has to be pumped uphill. We've had ongoing discussions with Caltrans about using Caltrans right-of-way, but there is no cost-effective way to get the water anywhere east of the PSC. We'd have to tear up streets, put it in the right-of-way of the Caltrans, because we looked at that, running it along the freeway. We planned ahead with the Simi Valley Town Center. It is all plumbed for recycled water, but there isn't a method to get it there. About 5 years ago, we had an ongoing discussions with the state of California regarding a $24 million loan, $23 million loan from the state of California to pump that water up Madera Road all the way to the city limits and beyond, actually out to Sunset Hills, where we would provide recycled water to Sunset Hills Golf Course, Sinaloa Golf Course, and Wood Ranch. Unfortunately, there weren't any takers on that side, and there weren't enough takers of the water along the way. And there was never, even at a $24 million loan from the state of California to pay for the infrastructure, there was never a point where we would break even. It was a constant excess cost because the amount of electricity and pumping required to move the water from that elevation somewhere else into the city, and especially up Madera Road. So I wanted to give that background on the challenges we have with using recycled water and sending it anywhere else in the community. But to answer to your question, it was primarily due to ongoing discussions that had not been concluded, mainly because everyone was distracted with too many other issues out there.
Is it a public perception issue, the reclaimed water, or is it purely financial issue? Because when I first got elected, one of the first things I did was take a tour. Thank you, Ron, whoever you are, gave me a great tour of the PSC. And I asked about reclaimed water and the purple pipes, and they had said that they thought about using it for the golf course, but that it was going to cost $1 million in infrastructure, and they just didn't have the money. So is that something that we as a city could do? Could we help, the golf course as an entity apply? Because I'm going to ask for that in 10B to look for, I know we have grant writers, to help us look for grants for that infrastructure. Because I'm sure now they would be more interested in it.
We have looked for grants. We constantly are looking for grants, especially for the recycled water. Yes, the golf courses would have to be replumbed with purple pipe, according to state law.
You also want to point out the cost, once we get the water there, how much that recycled water is going to cost them?
Well, the recycled water is about 80% of potable water. So
when you include the cost of the infrastructure.
It would not include the cost of the infrastructure. So the golf courses would have to pay for the cost of the infrastructure.
We should probably cover that at 10B.
Have I gone too far?
Yep.
Okay, I'll ask for it at a 10B. So just letting you know that that's coming down.
Okay, but I have a question on, and maybe it's we had multiple, number one, all of this is in the archives. I mean, this is record, easy for anybody that lives in this community wants to look up. They just have to take the time to look it up and not just point fingers. But we went to multiple industrial structures, and they turned us down also.
Correct. We have
because of the.
Yes, I mean, right now we have the 4 buildings at the end of Cochrane are receiving recycled water. The landfill is receiving recycled water. The concrete plant on LA Avenue is receiving recycled water. That may be the extent of the customers, Ron, if I missed somebody.
But anyway, we have no takers.
We don't have takers.
I remember too, we were gonna send the water to the freeway on-ramps, off-ramps,
Yes.
and what have you, at a time that we were in a drought, and there were certain individuals on this council who wanted to forest those on-ramps and off-ramps, and the price, as I recall it, I think Mr. Fujiwaki would remember, was water alone, not the infrastructure, not the planting of the trees and beautification, was going to, with the reclaimed water was going to be, it was estimated to be $25,000 a year. Do we want to spend that kind of money?
Yes.
when there's so many other options that don't include using water, period. So it's been an ongoing, long-term subject, and it's all in the archives and what have you, and you can see what we've done with it.
Mayor, if I may ask you or Mr. Gabler a question, wouldn't it be cost-effective to invest in that infrastructure now that we are doing so many street projects and we are doing the fiber optic projects? I mean, we are tearing up roads all over the city right now. So wouldn't it be cost-effective to do that right now that we're investing in our infrastructure, especially with all the COVID funding that we've invested over $10 million into the roads, and that's what we're fixing right now. Thank you, Public Works, and all the contractors within. But wouldn't it be smart to do that right now?
That's kind of a very broad question, but me as a citizen, I think the money would be better spent trying to get the state to make a decent water system. There's plenty of water out there. It's just not coming here. And I think rather than building trains to nowhere, and the list goes on and on of the horrible manner in which the state is run, that if we focus on things like water and say we want our fair share of the water, and I personally look at, we're an earthquake country, and we have a line that comes from the San Fernando Valley into our valley that is very subject to devastation by an earthquake. I'd rather put my money there, because we put the money in, putting it down the street, the investment of the taxpayers' dollars, and if none of the private industry, whether it be retail or industrial, if they're not willing to upgrade their facilities to accept reclaimed water, we haven't gained anything.
When was the last time we asked the industries, the residents, if they would like reclaimed water? Was this 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 weeks ago?
I really think we should probably agenda this discussion for a future date or an attendee. We're getting pretty far afield from what the issue is.
And I actually have just a couple questions that are specific, I believe,
Right,
to
and
what
the issue is restatement
before
or
us.
amendment to the agreement among Callegas Municipal Water District, the City of Simi Valley, and the Ventura County Water Works District, number 8, regarding the pilot reclaimed water system project, and that's what's on the agenda. Thank you.
I think you're right. I agree with you, and we're trying to answer one individual's questions, and we'll put it on the agenda and do that at another time.
So could I, Mayor, ask
No, not if it's not
It is specific.
to the.
It is
agenda.
absolutely specific to the agendized item.
Okay.
I promise.
Well, he'll throw you out if.
And I appreciate, please do. Okay. First of all, what percentage of water is being received in this contract? I mean, is it the reclaimed water? I mean, we have water, is it all the water that is being processed? Is all of that being pushed to that? Does that make sense, what I'm asking? Is it 20%? Is it 50%? I mean, the reclaimed water that right now in this contract is being pushed, that Callegas has with us, do they use all of the reclaimed water?
Well,
Or percentage?
Callegas doesn't get any of this water. They paid
I'm
for
sorry.
the infrastructure.
I'm sorry, they paid for the infrastructure.
Yeah, they paid for
Excuse
the
me.
infrastructure for us to pump the water where it's currently going.
Okay, I'm sorry, you're right. But is all of the reclaimed water, then everything that we process is then pumped? Is that correct? Or is it a portion? That's what I'm
A
asking.
very small portion.
That's correct.
Okay,
Very
and, so,
small.
and what is that percentage, just out of curiosity?
Oh, I couldn't even guess. We produce 8.5 million gallons of recycled water daily. I think 1,000 gallons may go up to the landfill, maybe not
Okay.
even that much, but a very small percentage.
Okay, and then maybe that answers my next question. Does this contract grant exclusive rights to the reclaimed water for 5 years? It doesn't, correct? It's just, basically, the system that we have in place continues that arrangement.
Correct.
There
It
is
allows
other
us-
reclaimed water, if magically someone wanted to dump millions of dollars on us, they could be used
It
elsewhere.
allows us to continue to use the system that's in place.
Okay. And it wasn't clear to me, have the rates increased as we've renewed this contract through the years?
There is an annual adjustment to the rates and payments, but again, it's such a small amount that,
Got it.
you know, I could probably throw my money clip out and it'd be
Okay.
it'd match our budget numbers or something like that.
Okay, thank you. That's what I needed. Thank you very much.
We have a motion.
Mayor, I make a motion to approve consent item number 2. And I'll
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Call for the vote.
The motion passes unanimously. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the item on the agenda is 10A, City Council Member Reports.
Okay, we'll start with Councilmember Judge.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On Wednesday, August 22nd, I attended via Zoom the Cayugas MWD Drought Task Force. No changes were made during that meeting. As far as I know, our water restrictions stand as they were before. Correct. On Saturday, August 27th, I attended the memorial run, walk, and bike for the 13 Souls of Kabul at the train station. It was a great event. It was well attended. We even had, they had people from all over the state there. It was an amazing thing. If you don't know what it is, the father of one of the Marines that was at the gate in Kabul when the idiotic evacuation notice was given, that was almost killed at that gate with the rest of those Marines because he had just gone off a shift. So this father decided to take it upon himself to put this memorial run, walk, bike together, and it was a very moving event, and it was an outstanding attendance. 10 o'clock that morning, I went and viewed the homes over at Pacific Royal Oaks. Those are those homes right off the 118 freeway below Hummingbird Nest Ranch entrance there. Very nice homes, not cheap, but very nice. And on Monday, August 29th, I attended the grand opening of a new cleaning supply and janitorial service facility here in Simi Valley, over by where the old Tapo Pharmacy was, right behind what was Carrigan. Very nice place. I wish those folks lots of luck in their endeavors. They look like they're very well organized. If you need cleaning supplies, check them out. On Thursday, September 1st, I attended the SCAG Regional Council and Transportation Committee on behalf of ECTC. Nothing new or nothing that really would affect Simi Valley came out of that meeting, although we did spend a lot of time honoring, well-deserved, Supervisor Carmen Ramirez for her service to SCAG. Friday, September 2nd, I attended the VCTC meeting in Camarillo. Like I said, not too much new stuff came out of that. Nothing's going on here in Simi Valley. Even the Caltrans updates didn't include anything in Simi Valley. Although, good news is, construction on the 23 is winding down. If you notice, most of the signs are gone, so there's no more 55-mile-an-hour restriction on the 23. Finally. That night, Friday, September 2nd, the Royal Simi football game. Hell of a game. Hell of a game. Friday, September 9th, I attended the ribbon cutting for it was a change of ownership at Funburger over there right next to Chick-fil-A. If you haven't been there, check it out. It's a great restaurant. We have new owners there. They're very motivated, very happy. There are lots of beers on tap, lots of different kinds of burgers, and lots of different kinds of French fries. Give them a try. Saturday, September 9th, never mind, didn't go. And that's my report.
Thank you. Councilmember Kavanaugh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Excuse me. On Thursday, August 25th, I attended and worked the Simi Valley Police Foundation's golf tournament. We had a sellout golf tournaments. We had over 144 golfers, which in the past 10 years, I don't remember having a sellout on a lot of the golf tournaments that I help out with. We had some great sponsors. The Canines were there. LAPD did a nice flyover with one of their helicopters and even lights and sirens. So I'm sure the PD got phone calls saying what was going on at the golf course. But it was a great event, a lot of support. Justin Hansinger and his band played, and we made a lot of money for the Police Foundation. So thank you to everybody. On Saturday, August 27th, I also attended the the Pacific Royal Oaks model grand opening. Those homes are beautiful. I wish I could buy one. The design was really nice. The mayor asked me to steal something while I was there. I'm just letting you guys know that. There was something he liked. He said, "Can you walk out with that?" I said, "No." But it was very nice. The developer there has been working with us and Moore Park for years. And they seem to be they're very helpful. They're very nice. And they were very excited to get this project done. And best of luck to them on all the sales of those. I tried to talk my daughter into buying one so I could have the granny flat, but didn't work. Let's see. On Thursday, September 1st, I met with some concerned citizens regarding a project that's going to be coming up before the city council. It's currently in front of the neighborhood councils. They were concerned about it and wanted to speak to me, so I met with them. And thank you to Claudia and Sean who met them with me. They were very, very helpful and were able to answer a lot of the questions that I, as a non-planner or non-environmental services person, didn't know the answer to. But so it was great to talk to community members, find out what their concerns were, and be able to at least assist them a little bit. Okay, on Friday, September 2nd, I also attended the Simi Royal football game. If you watch our city council meetings, you'll know I am the only one that went to Royal. I'm still a Highlander forever, but we got our butts kicked. And I had bet the mayor at the beginning of the game. So I brought the newspaper. The Acorn did a great job. Paint the town red because Simi won. So I owe the mayor $5. So here you are.
I'll ask the city attorney if I can accept that overdue payment on that.
Hey, I gave you a couple bucks the other night for the valet, so don't. But
I'm looking either way.
I also wanted to say this will be the last time that I get to harass the mayor about the Simi Royal relationship. So in the future, I will send you an email or something letting you know when that Royal won, and that I'll expect you to wear green for a week. I can still harass Mike because he went to see me also. But thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, and wishful thinking.
But, all in all, Adventist Health was one of the sponsors for the end zone, for the VIP section, and the food, I think, was Green Acres. And the stands were packed. My favorite part of the game, even though it was a very large amount to 0 for the majority of the game, both sides of students were so energetic and so excited. It's just fun to watch them. You have the Royal Kingdom, which is their group, and then you have the Maroon Mob, which is Simi's. And they're both groups are fantastic. And they, like I said, they're very entertaining, they're very energetic, and to watch them support their schools, no matter what the score, is just really, really great. Okay, we'll get on to that. Next year, we're going to win. On Wednesday, September 7th, I had my EDC Executive Committee meeting, and they did share a bunch of statistics with us. I'm just going to read a couple real quick ones. I talk about the EDC all the time, and East County, we still don't utilize them as much as we should. That includes Simi Valley, Moore Park, and Thousand Oaks. It's the best program around, and we're nationally recognized. We're one of the top 2 in the state, and this is for all free service to our small businesses. So for year-to-date, for 2022, they have served a total of 1,207 clients. They've had new client signups of 320. They've started 78 new businesses so far. And new jobs created were 245 out of those, and additional training to upskill. And then total capital loans and equity that we've been given year to date, that we've loaned out, $37.5 million. So there are funds available for small business to help you. If you don't qualify for a regular financial institution loan, the EDC is there to help you. And free advisors, free webinars. The loan's not free, but they will work out a payment with you. And it's a great program. One of the other things they're doing right now, which I thought was awesome, is they have a special initiative going on with childcare. We've been collaborating with the Ventura County Office of Education to bring quality childcare and business resources to local family childcare providers in Ventura County. So they're offering free classes And they teach the social aspect of quality childcare, merging the business and technical side of running your own business. So something simple as that. If you're a home business childcare, there's help for you there also. And Fathom Works is the program we have going on with the Navy and the Port of Hueneme. I still want a port here. I've asked them to dig one, but we haven't gotten there yet. The rest of it is just a lot of little notes, so I don't want to go too much on it. But again, the EDC is there for everybody. And on Sunday, September 11th, obviously it was the 21st anniversary of 9/11. If you ever have a chance to visit Ground Zero, please do so. I've been there, and it's very moving. The museum is really wonderful. And the other thing that I enjoyed doing was St. Rose of Lima. It has a blue mass, what they call blue mass, on the Sunday closest to September 11th every year. And it's a thank you to recognize and say a prayer for our first responders. So fire, police, paramedics, we had volunteers from the police department there. And so Father Shea invites them up, and special recognition and special prayer for our first responders. And it's always a wonderful event. Thank you, Chief, for sending the gentleman. You guys split the deal. We had you at St. Rose, and then Deputy Chief was at Cops and Cruisers. So I was at Blue Mass instead of Cops and Cruisers. So I'm the good girl this week. You gentlemen weren't there. So I just want to thank Father Shea and the Hispanic group that served us breakfast afterwards was wonderful. I think it's their Hispanic part of their Hispanic church there, and it's always a very full mass when that happens, and it's very heartwarming to see everybody and to really appreciate our law enforcement and our fire. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's it.
Mr. Mayor, if I could have been remiss if I didn't mention, I did remember something that came out of the VCTC's meeting. If you're a student in our county, whether you're junior high, high school, or college, you can ride our buses for free, our city buses and the VCTC buses. They are free until further notice. So you might want to get the word out. If you have students in your family, let them know. Bus rides are free. What we're trying to do is get people back on the buses, get comfortable with riding the buses, so that's why these rides are free. Thanks. Sorry I didn't mention that before.
Thank you, Mayor. On Friday, August 26th, there was a memorial for Carmen Ramirez in Oxnard. This was, I know there's several memorial events, and there's another one coming up in a couple of weeks. This one was specifically in honor of women's suffrage and Equality Day. And it was a toast to Carmen Ramirez and our former supervisor for Ventura County and chair of the Ventura County Board of Supervisors, who was an amazing public servant for many, many years and a fellow alumni of Loyola Law School. And that was in Oxnard. On Thursday, September 1st, I had the Clean Power Alliance meeting, and we approved quite a few things. The first thing that we did, which was really exciting, is that we approved a resolution to offer membership to the cities of Hermosa Beach, Monrovia, and Santa Paula. And so I'm really excited to have another city from Ventura County, Santa Paula, joining Clean Power Alliance. And service to these to customers in these communities will begin in the year 2024. And we will be having a hearing with the California Public Utilities Commission to allow them to join CPA for a public hearing on December 1st, 2022, if you'd like to see that. We also reviewed the 2022 Integrated Resources Plan and delegated approval authority for CPA's 2022 IRP to the Energy Resources and Planning Committee. We have many committees, and so that's a matter of balancing our power, where our energy is going to come from, whether it's going to come from wind or solar or geothermal. And the third item that we approved on the agenda was a 15-year renewable power purchase agreement with Cape Generating Station 2 LLC. This is a geothermal energy source, and unlike solar, which is only available during the day unless you store it, geothermal is available 24/7. It is renewable energy. So I eventually, not here in the future, I will ask again for 100% renewable default rate. I've done that in the past. I will ask again in 10B. Many other cities are doing that, including Camarillo, that just switched to 100% default. That does not mean that everyone has to do 100% renewable, but it means that we are likely to have more people have renewable energy and help fight the climate change and global warming. Right after that, I left to Boston. I went back east to drop off my son for Labor Day weekend to college, and that was my whole Labor Day weekend. And then on Sunday, September 11th, I actually just spent time with friends. I have a couple of friends who lost family in New York on 9/11. One of them, several of them actually have their family members' names on the 9/11 memorial. I agree, Councilwoman Kavanaugh, it is very impactful. I don't think you can go to the 9/11 memorial in New York without crying. I can't. Just for knowledge, for FYI, we do have a lot of the younger generation. So many of our high school students now were born after 2001, so they don't even know what 9/11 is, and not all teachers teach it. But know that all 4 of those planes were coming to California, 3 to Los Angeles and 1 to Boston. So we lost dozens and dozens of Californians in the 9/11 attack. I know people think that California was not affected, but it was. And so I offer my solace and support to those who have lost family members. And even though 21 years have passed, the pain remains of having lost family members, whether they worked there, whether they were first responders, whether they were just volunteers to go and help, who never even had a body to recover to mourn that loss. So just be aware of that. I do want to wish everyone on Hispanic Heritage Month. And please ask you to, not stereotype. This is truly when on September 15th, 16th is when most Latin American countries celebrate our independence. Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, Costa Rica. I could go down the list of all the countries that celebrate our independence on September 15th and 16th. And we get half of September and half of October. That's what we get. It's a weird, I don't know why we get half and half, but that's what we get. So we celebrate most of September and most of October. And so I ask for you to please be cognizant and respectful of Latinos and Latinas and Latinx in this community, and, refrain from doing stereotypical things. Our Independence Day is not Cinco de Mayo. It is September 15th and 16th for most of our countries. So I'd ask that you be respectful of so many of the Latinos that live in this community. And if I may, Mayor, may I say that in Spanish? Muchas gracias. Quería desearles a todos los latinos y latinas y latinés en la comunidad un feliz mes de herencia latina, de herencia hispana en esta comunidad. Nosotros sabemos que nosotros celebramos nuestra independencia el 15, 16 de septiembre en países como México, Honduras, Guatemala, Costa Rica. Sabemos que no es el 5 de mayo como muchos creen, y les pedimos, y yo les pido en inglés, que por favor sean respetuosos a nosotros, nuestras culturas latinas, que no todos somos iguales, pero todos celebramos juntos y merecemos y deseamos respeto como latinos. Muchas gracias. And that's my report. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. We've all been very busy this time. Just to share some of my calendar, I too joined the mayor and councilmember Judge at the Memorial Run Walk Bike 13 Souls of Kabul, and that was really a moving, memorable event. And I want to thank Mr. Jeff Von Molt, who was the father that Councilmember Judge referenced, that put this together for our community. It was interesting to see the media that was there from all over that wanted to recognize and appreciate the efforts. I also actually got on a bicycle, and what I think is very interesting to note is that if you leave the train station and you ride to Madera and you ride back, that is exactly 13 miles. And so it was how appropriate it was that our green, if you want to call it our green belt, our Arroyo belt, in a sense, the way it's designed at the moment right now, it celebrates those 13 souls. But it was a very moving, beautiful event. And it was very moving as I was they sent the bicyclists off first. And as I was returning on the bicycle, we watched a platoon of Marines jogging the route in full uniform. And it was just incredibly moving. The sacrifices and anyway, just a thank you to our brave men and women who have fought for our freedoms. And so we honor those 13, and the funds that were raised, it was all voluntary, but the funds were raised were to help 2 other veterans we don't often talk about, those that were so wounded in that that bomb blast. Actually, the funds that were raised were to help two that were seriously wounded, one of which is a paralyzed woman who needed a vehicle, and so some of the funds will go towards that. So just thank you again to Mr. Jeff Von Walt in our community who saw a need and put that together. Thank you. Also on that day, I attended the Egyptian Ankh Festival that was held at the Archangel Michael Coptic Orthodox Church that's on Appleton Road here in our community. What a marvelous celebration it was of Egyptian culture. It was fabulous. Wonderful food, wonderful art. It was just a great activity. And a thank you to Mr. Emil Ramsey who gave me a tour of their beautiful cathedral that is almost done. And I might add, it truly is a cathedral. And here's what I learned, that if there is a pope's chair in a Coptic church, it's considered a cathedral. And this one has a pope's chair. So, and only the pope or his designate underneath him can sit there. And so we actually have a Coptic cathedral in our community, which is beautiful. And the interior is beautiful marble and carved wood, etc., that has been shipped over from Egypt. So if you have an opportunity to visit this wonderful congregation, wonderful people, it just was a beautiful event that took place that weekend, and all were invited. And it was lovely to see, as I was there taking a tour, there was neighbors that came in and also walked in the church, and as Emil was explaining to them the similarities between their faith and the Catholic faith that these people were worshiping from. But it was lovely. August 29th, I too joined Councilmember Judge at the fabulous Cleaning Services, is the name of the grand opening that we attended there on Tappo Street. And wonderful people, a woman's dream to make that, who's cleaned for years but now has a storefront and employs others, and you can buy cleaning supplies. So I hope that we can frequent that establishment on Tappo Street. Wednesday, April 31st, I attended the Simi Valley Veterans Foundation meeting. They had this past Saturday a special veterans open house at the mall, and appreciate the efforts that were there for Veterans Services Fair, basically, that took place at the mall this past Saturday. Thursday, September 1st, I'm a member of SCAG's Energy and the Environment Committee, and it's an interesting committee in that generally the conversation centers around ways to become carbon neutral, et cetera. But the conversation this past Thursday, Chair Deborah Robertson has been very concerned that we've been missing, and I think rightly so, an important thrust of this committee. It's interesting, out of SCAG, we get a lot of talk about housing and the RENA assessment that we all have to meet, and we get a lot of talk about, at least in my committee, about how to become carbon neutral and electrify, et cetera, et cetera. But as people in this community have said to me, why are we building more houses when there's not water to support them? There is a missing piece in this environmental component, and that was one of the things that there was a resolution before us to talk about how that should be a thrust of this Energy Environment Committee and SCAG, that we recognize that water is an important environmental resource that we should be spending time with and shining light upon, and making sure that our community and region has its needs. I will tell you that it was an interesting conversation, because this resolution that they've been working on basically addressed ways that we could help with conservation, ways that we can repurpose water, but some of the conversation, it was felt that maybe there wasn't enough emphasis on ways to access new resources, et cetera. And so we actually pushed that well, I will tell you that I made the motion, which was seconded and accepted, to push it back to committee just to look at it and add that component so that we could pass it next time, which we will, and which it really was Chair Deborah Robertson's baby, I should say, and will be under her tutelage that we'll push it forward to the regional committee for approval, et cetera, regional council. But so I was gratified that that element is being recognized on SCAG, that we need to be talking about water just as much as energy. So that was an interesting conversation. Later in that day, I attended the VCOG board meeting, speaking of water, where Jacqueline McMillan, who has been 31 years with the Metropolitan Water District, was speaking about some of the water issues and what new forms of water, new term pumping station, recycling project, basically talking about projects that will be bringing more water to our area. The one thing I want to share, and you may well be aware of, is the Delta Conveyance Project, which you've been talked about for years, bringing water from, do you know that 45% of our water, or 48% just runs out to the Pacific Ocean in San Francisco? But that's a whole other thing. That's part of the reason for this water conveyance project. But right now is the draft EIR time for comment, and that's open from July 27th through October 27th. So if you would like to make comments about, I mean, it is going forward, this draft EIR to bring one tunnel, not the two that was originally proposed, but the one tunnel. And so now's the time for comment. If we choose to as a body or want to, please know that now's the time to make that draft EIR comment. September 2nd, I too attended the Royal versus Simi football game. I want to go on the record that I have children that graduated from both Simi High and both Royal High, and I have divided loyalties, and so I always win. I just thought I would share that. But it was a wonderful game, and I concur with Councilmember Kavanaugh's comments that watching the stands in action was just delightful. Well, a couple more things, and then I'll stop. Actually, I want to mention the memorial that popped up for Rick McClure, the bike guy, that happened Thursday evening. It was a pop-up memorial, and it was a block from where I live, and it just was a very special event, and so such a loss. On Sunday, and I should tell you that I too had took my son, or had to meet up with my son who was to help him move in over the weekend, but I flew back quickly on Sunday because I had been asked to be a part of a 9/11 event that took place in Thousand Oaks. And it was actually, I think this is all the mayor's fault because he brought the introduction to Dr. Rangini. And so we talked last time about the event that she brought to Simi Valley. Well, she did an even bigger event in Thousand Oaks, and I had made the mistake of saying that mentioned I was a professional harpist, and so she invited me to participate, and I felt completely inadequate because this truly was a concert that celebrates Indian music. And as a harpist, I knew nothing about Indian music, but I was the little piece in the middle, and so I did some quick research and learned some of the things, like you have to have a drone, and it's a melody, it's a single note melody and not harmonies, and anyway, so I was a little part of this event. But I just wanted to recognize it because I was there representing the city. And this was, I thought, and Sci Arts Are Us, and this was their 75 Melody Meets Rhythm, and quote, spreading peace and harmony via cross-cultural music and dialogue on 9/11. And I thought it was very meaningful that this was scheduled for 9/11, that there's a desire to bring this cultural understanding, and I was there representing the city for that. Last thing I'll mention today was the first presentation for the Simi Valley Ed Foundation, where they recognized head coach Daniel May at Royal High School as September Teacher of the Month. A little bit of stats about him. He's been teaching there for 33 years. He has won over 550 games. He is the most winningest coach in baseball Ventura County history. But he was given the Teacher of the Month award today, and I want to congratulate Mr. Daniel May on all that he's done for our community, and that is my report.
And they won CIF last year.
There you go.
Thank you.
That is Royal. Thank you.
What school was that?
Royals baseball team was a CIF championship. I watched that game.
Okay. First, in response to where you played the harp.
Yes.
And that's a group that I could never say no to. But if I had been there, you'd had somebody bringing a radio trying to play the radio. So you are the right person.
No, well, thank you. But it was beautiful Indian, Hindu and Carnatic music. It was beautiful.
Let's see, I'll try being quick. Saturday, August 27th, I too attended the 13 Souls of Kabul walk. Very inspirational type event. And for a first annual, I was amazed at how many people showed up. It was great. And a lot of booths and vendors that were not necessarily selling something, but showing products and being a part of that. Very, very good event, and I was sure proud to be a part of it. I too went to the Pacific Royal Oaks model grand opening, and it was amazing. And I had to say, when I parked the car and I got out, one of the things I was concerned about is it's the new homes that is right at the Cuner and the freeway. And I was concerned that you'd hear the freeway overwhelmingly. And as it turned out, because of the walls they put up and the oak trees and what have you, I got out of the vehicle and started walking to their model, and it didn't even notice the freeway. So they obviously did some awesome planning. And then the game. The game. That was a great game, and thank you, Dee Dee. I'll be there and bet with you anytime. But the thing about the game also that was very nice, it's Adventist Health put a VIP section in, and they catered food to come in, and they did a great job of sponsoring that event. And the grandstands were full on both sides, the Simi side and the Royal side, and the behavior, there was a little bit of concern from some events that happened a few weeks previous, and I saw nothing but people having a great time on both sides, and even Dee Dee and I didn't go to blows, we just kind of, verbally abused each other. Also, just a couple nights ago, Adventist Health had their annual event that was very good. It was up at the Hummingbird. They raised a lot of money for the hospital, and that was a super program. The guy that was the, what do you call him? Auctioneer. He was hilarious. I mean, well worth the price of admission just to see him. And once again, the food was great. And thank you to Adventist Health for being such a big positive part of this community. Then, I really enjoy going to the Blue Mass. Each year, I look forward to that. And this year, I think like the Mayor Pro Tem, I made a commitment, and I'll just advise you, don't ever volunteer to judge a car show. Because if the car show is full of awesome vehicles, it's like next to impossible. You walk around each car 20 times, and as you're walking away, you think, I better go take another look at the car. And it was fun, but it was difficult. How do you choose one car over another? It was just above me. But the thing was, another great community in Simi Valley, and for all ages, and everybody there certainly seemed to be having a great time. And I think that's it for me. That's all of the interesting stuff. I would like to say, go back to the 13 Souls of Kabul run. Was that there? No, it was at the models. When we were at the model homes, and you wrongly accused me of wanting to steal something. Yeah, and right. There was another mayor there, Mayor Parvin was there, and so we had somebody looking after us, so we didn't steal anything.
She made sure we didn't walk out with anything we weren't supposed to.
I kind of said, you need to go back to Moore Park. So, at any rate, but it was a good couple of weeks. And with that, we'll go to item 10B.
Mayor, I have two requests.
Okay.
I would like for us to bring the issue of reclaimed water back to City Council to discuss, possibly with the Tri-Agency Committee, to look for grant funding for Parks and Rec and Simi Valley Unified School District and the city to use reclaimed water pipes.
Are we looking at that just as a general?
Yeah. We are recycled water, reclaimed water. We haven't. Staff is currently preparing an agenda and come back to the council on that.
Okay, all right.
Do you have a timeline for that, by any chance?
It'll be next month.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I have one more request, Mayor, and I'm not sure how to phrase this, but I have noticed that in Thousand Oaks, they have turned off their fountains, like at the mall and stuff, but we still have fountains, like just down the street on Topple Canyon, and quite a few residents have stated on social media their concerns about, how can we have a water shortage, yet we have these fountains that are going. I'm not sure if we can request or require them to turn off the fountains, if that's recycled water, or how exactly that works, but quite a few residents are concerned that we have these fountains and we have a drought.
I believe that's Golden State Water District, so we wouldn't have any authority
Jurisdiction.
over that.
Okay,
But
thank
I
you.
think that, I believe that is the only one that I'm aware of in the community right now.
Are we talking about the one on Cochran and,
Cochran and Tapple Canyon.
okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
But we've been more than happy to communicate with them that on the appearance of.
Thank you, I would greatly appreciate that, as would many residents. Thank you.
Okay, any other? Jan?
I have just a question, and maybe 2 weeks ago I realized, or 3 weeks ago I was ill, and so I was at home on participating. Maybe it was just because I was on a special closed, and I never watched this from home, so you can tell me. Maybe because I was a panelist, but all the speakers, when they came up for public comment, all I saw was the back of them, not their faces. Was that just because I was a panelist, or do we broadcast the speaker?
That camera right there.
Okay, because what I'm seeing here is their face, so
Yes.
that's, okay. So it was just because I was a panelist, not because, okay.
Yes.
Just want to be sure people at home are seeing the faces of people.
But we don't, and you were on Zoom also. We're
Correct.
not going out on Zoom.
And that was fine. I just wanted to confirm that that was the reason.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
that's the camera right there.
Beautiful, thank you. That was just a question. Thank you.
Okay, tonight we're going to adjourn, and we'll start off with, I think everybody here probably is well aware of the loss of Rick McClure, the bike guy. We could probably spend another 2 hours here telling stories about the good that Rick has done. And I've had bicycles for the entire family, and then some, and I'd just like to say Rick was such a good guy, and you'd go in there and you'd say, Rick, I got a flat tire. Oh, give me a minute. He'd fix it. How much, Rick? Nothing. You go in there, you need this little part for your grandson's bike, and he had just taken off the wall, handed it to you. Don't worry about it. Catch it next time. The guy was phenomenal. He always was involved in BMX bicycle racing, and even from the days when Devonshire Downs, if anybody can remember that, he participated there, and he's so well known and so well liked because of his bicycle racing. And then when he went into business here, we should use him as an example of how to treat customers, because the guy was absolutely phenomenal.
And I just have to share what I loved about him is that, and I used this several times, when you purchased bikes for someone on Christmas, he would assemble them and he'd keep them at his shop so that you could drive there at midnight and pick up your bike so your child wouldn't know they were getting, so it could show up Christmas morning. He was open late Christmas Eve to allow parents to have that lovely experience and surprise their child. And a couple times I used, anyway.
Yeah.
Wonderful man, wonderful man.
Wonderful guy, and there's a lot of talk going around, and I'm sure that we're going to see something to remember him by. And I hate to say goodbye to Rick because he was such a good guy, but we all lose when we lose somebody like that. And we'd also need to remember the September 12, 2008 victims of the Metrolink tragedy. And when we're over there, like where the Kabul run was, there's a very nice memorial right near the tracks that is very worthy of going over and walking through it, taking a look at it. And then we carry on to, we had the car show. We had so much going on this weekend, but it was also 9/11, and we lost close to 3,000, just shy of 3,000 Americans that day. We were attacked by terrorists. Those terrorists are still around. We still have to remain diligent in protecting ourselves and keeping ourselves aware of what's going on, and support our government in protecting us against potential future issues. But it was kind of good at that car show. We took a minute and thought about the people that would like to be at the car show. That 21 years ago, they had that eliminated from them, and they were eliminated from families, and it just goes on and on and on. And yes, there was policemen, there were firemen, but there was also janitors and all kinds of people that wanted to go home to their families. And so please think of them. And also, I think it's appropriate that we acknowledge Queen Elizabeth II in her passing. Great lady, served so well in her country, and a loss for them, and just be aware of that. And with that, our meeting's adjourned.